quick reminder before we get started to hit the subscribe button for more on the mind, body, and spirit. So today has been a little bit of a media day. You're going to see this out of order, but my hair is kind of wet because I got out of the shower not long ago after making a video you'll see later where I was working out in the garage and spoke words as I do. So that's going to come out later. And that is a very interesting video. That was interesting to do. More so, the interesting part was doing the after part. But either way, this is out of order. This is beforehand. So if I want to do a commentary on that, I'll do it later. Anyways, what the point of this video is it's my first video in 3 weeks. Roughly. And for that, I apologize. I know I said there was more to come, and then I've been MIA for that. There has been multiple reasons for that. Number one, that was because I thought that every single video I was making was too samey. It was me regurgitating the same stuff. If you remember from earlier in the year, that is predominantly why I stopped recording as well then, just because it was the same stuff over and over. And the justification for that was that I was, my reach is small, so I need to just keep pumping it out and be consistent, and maybe it'll be pushed more. But I didn't want that. It wasn't fulfilling me. That's not who I am. I have an actual professional style kit, and this vlog format with the GoPro is, yes, more like a run and gun kind of speak my mind and whatever. But if I'm just literally pumping out content for the sake of pumping out content, then I'm just going to become the guy that says the same thing over and over, and I don't want that. Now with that out of the way, I wanted to make this video because it's something that has been on my mind for a while. Now, if you remember, previously I had been saying that I had seen a lot of eyes appearing in my mind, in my mind's eye, if you will. And recently I was meditating because that is actually a biblical thing to do. Meditation is fine so long as you're filling your spirit with something instead of emptying your vessel. And that is, funny enough, what I've always done. But anyways, during one of these meditations, I was suddenly surrounded by a lot of different eyes. And this came couple hours after I had seen a flash of, like, the only way I could describe it is like a negative of an eye, where the whites of the eye were completely black and the iris was white, pure white. So a couple hours later, I had seen, like, as I was meditating, bam, these all just kind of surrounded me in various different forms. And anyway, I'll just put it up here on the screen so you can see, because I made a crude drawing similar to the crude drawing that I made of Satan that came to my mind's eye that one night. And this is something that I have been hesitant to speak on, because you can see these things, you can experience these things, but as soon as you say these things, judgment is always cast upon you by everyone around you. And especially, I think my greatest fear is that someone is going to target me and try to defame my character in a number of ways. And I don't know why I fear that, because maybe it's because I don't like the spotlight. I really don't like the spotlight at all. I really like anonymity, and I like being under the radar. In fact, that's why I don't have any tattoos and I don't wear any symbols, is because I like the idea of being relatively an unknown, and you have to get to know me to really get to know what I'm about. I don't want someone to see a tattoo of a symbol and be like, oh, hey, I know who you are, or I know what you're all about, based off that, without ever having to say a word to me. I just like being kept to myself. But anyways, the reason I was saying all that is because now that I'm about to speak this, it's going to be out there on the internet. I don't know who's going to see it. It could go completely unseen for 5 to 10 years, and then suddenly the right person sees it, thinks it's one thing, it's either like really positive, really negative, whatever. does a commentary on it, and then suddenly it's all over the place, right? That is always the possibility. In the landscape of the internet. But anyways, I have been receiving what I would refer to as prophecies, and I say that what I would refer to them as is because I have been writing them down. So I have been writing them down, and it kind of is a blend of automatic writing, except it is me actively channeling the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. And these are the words that just come to my mind, and I write them out. So this is essentially what this is going to be. And at first, I had a lot of doubt, because I've always had a lot of doubt. I've always distrusted spirits. That's come from my paranormal activity that I had as a kid. But my friend, I'm going to shout him out, Jake, who I've started talking to more, has actually kind of corroborated these and has told me like a lot of these are rooted in a biblical nature. So he's been very supportive, and without him, I don't know that I would actually trust my own words, just because that's who I am as a person. And there have been other messages that I have received that, well, I don't fully buy at surface level, or whether I just want to avoid them because they seem scary. It's one of those things, one of those callings, and the thing that has been calling to me since December 2022 is to put the words out there, to get the message, to share this message. And I just haven't, right? I've started and I've stopped. I've started and I've stopped. And a lot of it is because my life and all that stuff. You know, I live a very busy life. Either way, it is 7 minutes into this video right now, and I haven't spoken the prophecies. So either way, I have doubts. I'm getting over those doubts thanks to Jake, and I'm going to go ahead and now read some of these prophecies and explain. So the first thing that I need to talk about is the date of this first one. It's on July 24th. That it was exactly 1 month after Jesus's energy came to me and said, it's time to go. And then in my mind, he said 1 week, and I projected that out to be 7/1. That will become evident in a little bit. But either way, since that point, he's been trying to get me to speak, and I just haven't, except for the mass videos I dropped 3 weeks ago and then stopped uploading. So, this first one comes on 7/24, and the words go: fire, war, death, famine, a mass cry, a shining light, a snatching up, 3 months' time. I know nothing about anything Hebrew calendar, biblical. I know nothing about their feasts. I know that there are feasts that happen, and people that are really knowledgeable on that stuff tell me what's going on. But all I can say is I got the sense while writing that something very significant, that's the best way that I can describe it, is going to happen in October. Because that was written in July, 3 months away is October. I don't know if it's going to be October 24th. I don't know if it's going to be just throughout the general month of October. I just know that we're in the month of October when something significant happens. And I said the 7/1 date was important, and that was because I believe it is Rosh Hashanah is on October 2nd. I said that I don't know a lot of this stuff, and this actually happened last week, as of real-time recording of this video. Last week during my lunch break, I was listening to a video, and they said Rosh Hashanah happens on August 2nd, or not August 2nd, I'm so sorry, October 2nd, and there is going to be a Ring of Fire eclipse that night. I believe it was 6:22 p.m. Was it 6:22? I believe it was 6:22 p.m. Jerusalem time, which would make it, they're 7 hours ahead, so that would make it 11:22 a.m. Eastern time on the east coast of the United States. And that's going to happen near sunset. So the sun is going to be setting when they have this ring of fire eclipse, and it's apparently going to make the moon red, which is very interesting, given the scriptures and all that stuff. And basically, it triggered in my memory the verse where it's talking about the sun darkening and the moon turning into blood. That's what stuck out to me, basically, with that information. So that is why 7-1 is now suddenly... oh my god, I didn't even explain that. So apparently that's the first day of the Hebrew calendar, like their new year, something like that. Either way, their Hebrew date is 7-1 on that day. And that just took me back to on June 24th when Jesus came to me and was like, hey, it's time to go. And then he said 1 week, and I looked and it was 7-1, and then 7-1 on the Hebrew calendar, plus then I have this other prophecy. Either ways, I'm trying not to sound crazy and failing at it. So we're 11 minutes in, and I've gotten through one prophecy, and I have talked about the eyes, which is pretty good. I'm making decent progress. I'm trying not to babble on forever and make a half-hour long video because I do respect people's time. So there was one day and I can't remember exactly. It's been within the last couple weeks. So I had another day where I just felt called to write again. So I did that, and it was a lot came through me, and I had four in a very short time period, just the same session, 4 different statements, because I'd finished one and it was like, please keep going, please keep going, please keep going. So the first one here says, when the day turns to night and the water into blood, the cries of fear will blanket the earth as the son of darkness descends to wreak havoc. The second one goes, wolves will lead lambs to death, and herders will be devoured for the truth. The shadow spreads, and the lambs will forever be devoured. And then the third one, it was me pausing, like overthinking everything, and then the words that flowed through were speak, 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 in all caps. And then the fourth one that I got was, a streak of light will take the saved, and the wicked will be lost to their fate, until a second streak returns the light of peace. Obviously, it's not out of the realm of possibility, of imagination, to see what that is. That's speaking of the rapture, taking people out. That's what's going through my head. So pretty much the rapture happens in a flash, and then the darkness is finally unleashed onto the world, right? That's what they say is going to happen, and that is alluding to that. And I don't like putting out negativity. I really don't. I've been a very positive-oriented person. But, it's just one of those things that I'm not in control. I know I'm not in control, and I can only control the controllables. I can only control so much. So that is why I'm writing these down, and I'm just listening, and it's so different from this light of truth. It's hard to explain. But so at some point in there, within the last couple weeks, when Jesus' presence is near me, when it just drops into my soul, the message that has been coming through is head west. Now, I can't just quit my job, right? We just bought this house. I can't just quit my job and leave. I'm not going to leave my wife to do all this stuff on her own. That's just inhumane, essentially. And that is essentially betraying her trust. I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. So I asked more. There was a day that I just sat there and asked a question and waited for a response. And what was revealed to me in an emotion is that Go West is a warning that I need to share with a lot of other people. And I was writing in my spiritual journal that day when it was revealed to me. So I'm going to read an excerpt from my spiritual journal here, because this is essentially what reveals the truth. This was the bit that revealed the truth. In general, getting away from the coast is the way that those who remain in the east when everything falls needs to go. And West Virginia, basically, I'm not going to beat around the bush, anything like that. If everything were to collapse in my mind, the way I see things going, I grew up in Illinois. Illinois is a horrible place to be because while I guess it is most of the state is lush farmland, you have a lot of major cities dotted throughout that landmass. Everyone's going to go out, and it is not going to be a place to sustain yourself for a long period of time. Likewise, I think Maryland is going to be a terrible place to live if everything goes down, because you have obviously the DC metropolitan area to the south, and then you also have Baltimore to the east. Now, on the far east, on the actual coast, because you have a bay that cuts into the middle of the state, you have the Eastern Shore, which they have Ocean City over there. But I think it would take a lot of time for people to cross over. I say that, but if stuff's going down, the immediate threat is going to be Baltimore. And, of course, there's the D.C. area as well, which is going to be a shit show, to put it the least. Give me one moment. I am receiving a phone call. Talking about dinner. Because, real life is happening right in front of our eyes. Anyways. So, the spot that is shown to me is West Virginia. Head to the mountains of West Virginia, which is the Appalachian Mountains, which, as we all know, I'm very familiar with this in the paranormal community. That is a very paranormally active area, and it's one of those things that I'm not too sure how to take. I don't think it's going to be that great. Right now it's not great, but all you can do is obey. Sometimes just follow your intuition, feel what's right. So I call it intuition. Sometimes it's instructions from God. That's probably everything that it is, and He shows you what's right, and you either follow that or you don't. And when you don't obey that and you go against that instinct and you get smacked in the face, you realize I should have just listened. So I have started just following that intuition, and that's where we're at right now. But yes, West Virginia. I think my theory about that with the Appalachian Mountains and with all the entities that are out there is I think maybe that it has been there, like those are guardian spirits or something, just to keep everyone out until the designated time when it needs to be used as a safe haven. Or maybe it's one of those things, it's like you just go there, and since the world is falling apart and there's a lot of people that probably are going to the same area as well, those spirits are just going to go dormant and be like, yo, there's too much life here. We're not able to steal people in the middle of the night right now, so we're just going to chill. Right? Maybe that's what that is. But the last thing I want to touch on here today, and while I speak all these prophecies and all this stuff, and I kind of just expand upon them and kind of speak hypothetically on them, one thing, this is not new. I used to do automatic writing. Before I used to say it was prophecy or prophesying, or messages from the Holy Spirit, or this was a message from Jesus. Back a year ago, it was just me channeling spirit, and it was me writing doing automatic writing, essentially. And there were a couple messages that came through that were very true. that have rung true. One of them being is you cannot imagine how your life is going to turn out, because I don't think anyone could have told me that a year ago that I would be a full-blown Christian again. But here we are. And also, I take that as a message that I don't know how my life is going to turn out, in the sense that I've had all these plans. These plans are going to fail. These plans are going to fall apart, and you need to expect that. Okay, fine. Challenge accepted, essentially. I'm really good at rolling with the punches and improvising. I'm really good at improvising. So I got that message last year, but another message that I got was that this job, this day job that I currently have, is going to be the last one that I hold. And at the point that that came through, I had interpreted that as that I'm manifesting a fortune. And in fact, all spiritual sides to the fact that I was manifesting a fortune. My etheric body was standing the way I imagined it in my mind's eyes. My etheric body was standing in a dried up riverbed in front of a dam, and the dam was cracking, and instead of water coming out of it, it was money. And I believe I talked about this before in my first Let's Walk video. That flood of money came to me, and then next thing I know is I had sprouted wings, and I was on a train heading up this plateau to meet a yogi. And that is then when the message that you can't imagine how your life is going to turn out came to me. And that's essentially what led me to Jesus. That whole vision, the etheric thing, and whatnot. So when I was writing in my spiritual journal, and I got the message to what the clarification go west or head west meant, I decided to follow suit and speak more. So I wrote, I want a new job. And this is what Jesus responded with. I told you this is your last day job. Keep your eyes open, and when prompted, lead everyone west. I told you last year you would become the leader of the free world. Sidebar, that is also true. That was another random message I received in my car before I started a spiritual journal that actually came through last June of 2023. Your words are to permeate the fog, your light to pierce the darkness. You are my sword, and I am your shield. You are sealed, and you are safe. I love you. So I wrote that, and I was like, that's really interesting. And there's a dude named Nathan Reynolds who was on some podcast, I'll link it in the description, talking about how he was basically born into an Illuminati family, and went through all this ritualistic stuff, and it was disgusting, and how he eventually found power in the Word of God and in Jesus Christ, and to repel all the darkness from around him. And talks about skinwalkers and shapeshifters a lot. It was really fascinating to listen to. And I was listening to the Book of Genesis on his website. The link will be in the description as well for that. He has the Book of Genesis in there, and that experience writing that spiritually rocked me. And so I was driving to lunch last week, when this was last week at the time of recording and uploading, and when I came back, when I was driving, I was listening, or I was thinking about that moment as the Book of Genesis was playing on my car radio. And then all of a sudden, Abram, before he becomes known as Abraham, was talking to God, and God told him that I am your shield. And that was happening right as I was thinking back on that little prophecy that I wrote. It wasn't even a prophecy, back on that message that I wrote, and it just, in my soul, the gong in my soul just went off. Last week was a crazy week when it came to messages, and I don't even believe in coincidences anymore, so I had called them synchronicities for a while. But just the nature of all of that happening in such a short period rocked me, and I told my friend Jake about that, and he basically said, like, a lot of what I am writing is what is in the Bible, and it's pretty crazy. There is one more that I do need to read. So this one I had almost forgotten about completely, but I was having a really rough day last week. Again, this all happened in a very short period, and this last one happened last week, and it was a day of doubt, right? I have expressed my doubt in my abilities and what I'm receiving, and so I wrote down another prophecy and I crumpled it up and I threw it away. But I remembered the gist of it. That was the important part, because a couple hours later, I decided I have a group chat with all my spiritual brothers, and we talk about these things very regularly. I told my friend Jake later, and I'll tell you what words he spoke to me after, and I'm going to read the conversation verbatim, so that way it's not just conjecture, but basically he inspired me to double down and believe my gift. So, okay, here's what it said, without any further ado. The earth will let go of the tainted light, and the darkness will swallow and flush the wicked for eternity. Those that keep the light will ascend into lush lands, and abundance will be theirs. So then he responded, how much of Revelation have you read? And I said, I have physically read very little. I have listened to a lot and usually have some form of commentary to break it down. I know it says that Christ will return and he will make a new heaven and a new earth, which, shout out to Dolores Cannon. The separation of the new earth essentially is what funneled me right back into this. The spiritual community talks of the same thing, of the coming new earth in a higher dimension. They refer to it as the new earth shift. And he said, well, what you heard from God was said to John, LOL. It's on a sealed letter given to Jesus. So I asked those exact words, and he said basically yes. And that kind of just blew my mind, and kind of made me. So the camera died, and I had actually recorded a quick ending yesterday. So I was laying in bed last night, and I remembered one other thing that came through. I did a terrible job of vetting these before I just hit the record button, as I do. I'll try to get better at being organized in the future. Anyways, there is one last one that I need to read, and that prophecy goes as the following. Now, this was written last week on September the 12th. So it was in the middle of one of those days when I was feeling compelled to write. So this might not necessarily be a prophecy, but it is a message. And it says, when the ascended consciousness lands on the earth, the darkness will evaporate. All pain will heal, all tears will dry. But endure we must, for the darkness wants you, and the deceived will work like arms and hands of the wicked, their efforts focused on grasping the light keepers and snuffing their light. But the deceived are deceived for a reason, and they cannot hold the light. So, I think the message is very clear in what I need to do and what I feel compelled and called to do, and I need to stop coming up with these scenarios, these imaginations of scenarios that aren't going to happen, right? Just how we have all these fake arguments in our heads. This is a scenario that likely won't ever happen, with my great fear of someone trying to defame my character. But then again, also, you have people that believe the same thing, just dedicating themselves to tearing down people who have just a slightly different belief in them. And I think in this time frame, we're really going to see a splitting. And in that splitting, we're going to see people that, while they think and believe different things, they're going to also acknowledge that we are all humans and we don't ultimately know everything. We're imperfect in these imperfect bodies and in living our imperfect lives, yet we're sitting on our high horses and judging everyone else. And we're going to see where people uplift each other and support each other versus those that tear each other down. And you can really see the spirit of good versus the spirit of bad in however you act, however those people act. You can really see the contrast in those. So perfection is something that I've always striven to do with my content. It's what stops me. Remember, I talk constantly about how I keep putting out the same message, making the same video, and how that ultimately makes me stop. And I have to let that go. I have to let that go because consistency is everything. Spreading the same consistent message will ultimately reach who it needs to reach in those times. So, I don't know. I can't imagine how my life is going to turn out, apparently. So, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm ready to let go of all of that and just be more consistent. So, apologies again that it's taken me so long to make another video and upload. But again, there's been a lot that's been going on. I've had some doubts. I've been wrestling with those doubts. And thankfully, I have the best support group imaginable to help me through this and really support me and try to have a belief that I have a genuine connection to the Holy Spirit. So I love that. I love them. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ken, and there is more to come. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like, subscribe, all that stuff, because I'll be bringing you more on the mind, body, and spirit. So, until the next time, have a good one.